Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about the post that I made yesterday, talking about perseverance and why perseverance is so important in anything, and especially in OCD recovery. So perseverance is carrying on through whatever things is going on, discomforts, challenges we're facing, and carrying on through that and not letting that stop us, because we do not know what positive things could be in the future about to come. Now let's look at perseverance in relation to OCD. If you looked at, say, all the different things that face people with OCD, you would have finding a good person to help you get better, finding good books to help you get better, exposures that are difficult, that have to be overcome, trying different things to see how your beliefs are affecting you, breaking down, disputing those irrational beliefs, learning to live with uncertainty, all these different things that are part of the process of recovery. And so you have to persevere through that. Persevere through bringing your OCD for the ride, symptoms and all, even in jobs and relationships and so on. Persevering through difficult, uncomfortable symptoms. Persevering through difficult thoughts that make life very challenging. And persisting every day, because it's a chronic thing for initially. I mean, we always have it, but we don't suffer from it. So in terms of it being there, it's going to be around for quite a while. So you have to get used to it being there in all forms that it comes with thoughts, where it comes with feelings, emotions, physical symptoms, everything. Persevering through all of that. And that's important. And I mean, there's a Winston Churchill quote that's very specific to this, saying, if you're going through hell, keep going. And that's exactly how I liken OCD recovery too. In OCD recovery, it will feel like you're going through hell. All different stages of my OCD recovery journey had difficult challenges. Initially, when it was contamination OCD, and I went through every shampoo and every soap in a whole house, and it was a reasonably large house that we were living in at the time. So you're talking quite a few different bathrooms. So if you add up all the things I must have been doing, I was going through whole bottles of shampoo, whole bottles of soaps, shower gels. Maybe in 2 days, I would spend 7 hours in the shower a day. I would be completely, it started off with contamination relating to what if I had I had got something that was going to give me an infectious disease. Bear in mind, I was only 17 at the time when this happened. And then it moved to what if I then pass on that disease to someone else, so responsibility OCD linking in there. So it got into that. And so I was just capped in this, going back and back in this cycle till my dad went, enough, this has got to stop. You have to go towards this, which is what happened there. And so I did in that instant see that I would have to just take the risk, because my family didn't want that anymore. And I didn't know anything about OCD at the time. And I thought, I've just got to knock this on the head. And bear in mind, if you're thinking that number of hours, that's very difficult to do. And it doesn't always work like that for a lot of people, for obvious reasons. People stay like that for a long time and need help, of course, to get better. But in my instance, that's what happened. And then it obviously moved then to a thought or a fear in my head of something else. And then I was trapped in that, which then obviously led me going to therapy and so on, and my journey beginning there. So perseverance through all these things. Every thought I could ever think of, I've pretty much had it. Persevering through, getting through all those different ones, those different fears, overcoming them, seeing what they were like, and getting better from those, experiencing them, then adapting and changing to get over each one of those fears. Some of them are staying stuck, some for years, because I didn't really know what I was doing at that time, and some others just sort of rearing their head and then disappearing. So it's different. The main ones catching me, obviously, the likes of harm, OCD, and so on. False memory, real event, latching to the past. And obviously OCD is not a thing you can just forget and just get over. I couldn't get over the other ones, just like how initially with my dad's situation with the contamination. Those wouldn't happen like that because it was in my head and with the mental ruminations and compulsions and so on. So things aren't as simple as that with those things, and certainly not as simple as that for contamination. It can be, and it can be with other instances, but it depends on how it's affecting you, your belief systems, and so on, and your life experiences. So, back to perseverance in general. It's persisting through so many areas. It can be with medication, trying one med and then moving to another med, and then side effects that you don't like, and then moving on to another. And it's very easy just to go, okay, I give up, I've had enough, forget this. But what are we going to do? We haven't got any choices. If we say we give up, what are we going to do? Sit on the couch and we're going to cry and be depressed all day, which we can do, and understandably people do. And I've felt in that position many times myself, naturally. So, but where does that lead to any positive result? It doesn't. Doesn't lead to a positive result. So we have to work to get better, because it's the only option. Because we've got to learn to live our lives, because we've got this one life. And we want to enjoy that as best we can. And I try not to measure things all the time in terms of enjoyment and how we're feeling and emotions and how was today and all of that. I try and measure it on what we achieve with it coming for the ride. So initially, when I was still suffering a lot, I still managed to run a business and do so many things, even when I had chronic anxiety. And that was so important. It's about achieving and doing things and getting everything done that you wanted to do with it coming along for the ride. That is absolutely crucial. So I try and measure things based on that a lot more. Often a lot of people I work with who've been, say, unemployed for 4 or 5 years, getting them back to work, getting them back to social life, those things. And then obviously the anxiety tends to settle whilst they're doing that. But at the same time, there'll be many times where they're like, I want to quit this job, this is difficult and so on. But we've got to persevere. That's what it's all about through anything. Because it's the only option we've got as a human race. What are we going to do? If we get cancer, what are we going to do? We're just going to sit there and do nothing? No, we have to still go on about our life. If we have a war going on, what are we going to do? We've still got to go on about our life. In anything, perseverance is the key of it all. Okay, so that's the attitude. You've got to train yourself to see that in all situations. Persevering in all different things. Humans are so often, when things get difficult, they want to stop. They don't want to persevere. They want to just sit back and they think, it's too difficult, I'd rather sit here, play computer games, watch something else, zone out from it all for the moment. Understandably in the short term, but long term you can't do that. So it's very, very, very important that we persevere, that we move ahead, we do things, we move towards getting things done. That's very, very important. And with OCD, the obvious area that's going to get into is any chewing gum here? No. Is the obvious area that's going to get into is going to be exposures, wanting to put them off till another day, wanting to put them off till a time where you where you're comfortable. But that day doesn't come. There never comes a day where you suddenly become comfortable to do exposures. That day is never ever going to happen. That day is an imaginary day. So you have to face the discomfort. You have to do it now. You just have to go, right, today I'm doing it. Why? Because every day you don't do it, you're putting off getting yourself better. So you're on the other side of that kind of trap. So it's very important to persevere and push ourselves through those. Okay, let's have a look if there was any specific questions on here. What advice have you got for the fear of being stuck with unwanted thoughts for the rest of my life? Well, even if you have unwanted thoughts persisting, you can still live your life. It's uncomfortable. But once your relationship starts changing with them a bit and you start living your life, it's uncomfortable, but it's not the end of the world. It's a far better life than so many people. There'd be a queue outside your door of people in this world who'd still want your life over theirs. Millions. People who are in hospital where they can't even get off a breathing device. People who are in jail facing harsh conditions. People in absolute poverty. All different situations. But we compare ourselves always to What if I was the normal person who didn't have this? But that ain't the card we can play. We can't just suddenly do that. And we don't need to do that. It's about learning to accept and be at peace with our current situation. The good thing with anxiety disorders is they're treatable, because once you face fears and break down fears, there is no disorder. Okay, no, there is a disorder, but it doesn't. The suffering isn't fueled. Okay, let's have a look here. I'm the same. My parents are like, get over it and it hurts. Well, you can't get over it. It's a disorder. It's not a case of that. When I was referencing to contamination OCD, what actually happened there is I ended up then refraining from doing the compulsions, which obviously led to me getting better. You can't just snap out of OCD. You can't just get over OCD. It was in that instance, it stopped me doing the compulsions. Obviously, I still did them a bit, but then eventually I stopped them completely, and that's what was a large driving force with that contamination OCD. And plus, I didn't have it that long. It was just very, very severe for that period of time. Is there a way to help someone who won't help themselves? What will happen if they just keep saying they can't? Well, if they just keep saying they can't, they will get the same result that they're currently getting now, which is they won't improve. Now, you can't help people. You can give advice, and we can try and sort of get into their mindset to do it. But if people don't want to, you can't. The same as alcoholics who don't want to say they're an alcoholic and don't want to stop drinking. They choose not to. You can't get them to stop. That has got to be their own journey. They have to venture out. And having done this for many years, I've realised that there's certain people that do not want to get better. Now, it's not they do not want to. It's the feeling of doing it feels too much, and they don't want to venture there. Now, they can obviously have help to get there, but they will need to venture out somewhat on their own. We can't control people to do things. So it is going to need to come from them, some amount of that. I try not to question it, but naturally I am. I was pretty anxious yesterday and worked on exposures last night, and I woke up this morning with no anxiety, and it felt strange. Well, when we don't feel anxiety, we will think that feels strange, because we're so used to having this other sort of person, or well, not person, but this other intrusive thing there. So when it goes, we're like, God, it's gone. What am I going to do now? Or not feeling as safe because we're so used to it, comfortable with it being there. That's often happened when I got better. For a period, this sounds crazy, but it's reality. It was almost like a Stockholm syndrome, where I missed the anxiety, the suffering, the torture of it, because I'd known it for so long. Even because then I thought, what do I do with myself? I've got all this time now and all this freedom, extra energy. I've begun cutting out compulsions and have made good progress with this, but I still find myself feeling guilty and ruminating constantly on the thoughts. Well, you won't be able to stop the ruminations that happen internally just like that, because they're driven by fear. Until the fear's brought down, you can't stop those. They're almost automatic, kind of are. So we need to bring the fear down to help with that too. How would you suggest parents do help? My parents are very hands-on and they want to help, but I keep accidentally pushing them away in utter frustration. Very, very normal. They're obviously just trying to help you and trying to understand the situation, and you're going to get annoyed, as people get annoyed with parents, even if they didn't have OCD. But it's about just them. I think the best way for parents always is to be compassionate and supportive, but pretty sort of tough love at the same time, because that's what OCD needs. It needs that sort of drive. And I think that's important to have that balance. Okay, guys, I think it was just going to be a short Instagram live today, covering some of those points on perseverance and checking in with you guys. I will see you on the next Instagram live, and I will speak to you then. All right, guys, see you later.